Welcome back to Dirt Gear TV. I have exactly zero doubt that my neighbors think I am nuts. But today we're gonna be bringing Widow to the dyno. I told you guys we were doing that soon. Just got some fuel in it. Only a couple of things caught fire, nothing serious. I burned down one of the bikes, but at least Widow is intact, so we can get this to the dyno. Now we're gonna see what she can lay down for horsepower and torque numbers, like I told you guys we would in the next video. So if you haven't, well actually if you haven't already left a guess, it's too late at this point, because the contest's over. By the time you see this, we'll know what Widow's doing for horsepower and torque numbers, so it is what it is. If you guessed correctly, congratulations, you got a t-shirt on your way. If not, too bad, so sad. What can I say? But we gotta get this thing packed up because the dyno appointment's in 1 hour. Recording. See how much this engine rocks? Oh, we're still connected back here. Let's hope it stays that way. All right, so we're here at Redline Tuning. It's Redline Tuning, right?
Yes, Redline Tuning.
You guys got a pretty cool facility. Some old muscle cars back there. Old Chevy. So we'll get this thing hooked up and we'll see what it can do. I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing warming up because it takes a while to get warm. I wanna make sure I'm not doing a hard pull with cold oil. CV's holding up so good so far. No issues there. Any oil leaks. There's just a tiny bit of oil that's coming out from around this fitting. I may have to either replace this connection. This was all slapped together so fast that I hardly got time to secure everything.
Keep watching me, I'll back you onto the roller.
Yeah, it's in neutral right now. Getting her all strapped down.
What are you doing with this?
Well, I just got it back from Durhamtown. I'm running about 8-9 PSI right now, but I've had it up as high as 15. So I'm pretty sure it'll hold 15, no problem.
I'll hit the red button. It'll stop the run and it'll press the brake for you.
Okay.
So when you let off, don't touch anything else. You don't need to touch the steering wheel, you don't need to touch the brakes.
I've got it at a pretty safe Redline right now, I think like 7,400. So I guess I'll either let off before that or just right to that point once we hit it. Is there a point where I'm gonna overspin this thing? Like if third is just too high? Because it is geared pretty high.
This dyno holds up to like 2,000 horsepower. Not too worried about.
If I can even spin it up that fast, right?
Right. When you're ready to do a pull, just look at me. I'll hit the button. Give you the go ahead.
Do you remember those horsepower numbers? I think it was like 128. Okay, so this is the first pull. However it is, I think it's about 8 or 9 PSI. So 128 with no tuning. Max torque, look at that torque, 134. Nice and flat. Horsepower doesn't drop off, but I only ran it up to 6,000. So I'm gonna go a little bit higher now that I've done a little tuning. Just taking a little bit of fuel out of the top end and add a little bit more fuel down at the bottom. And I'm gonna put like 1 or 2 more PSI of boost in it. All right, so 146 horsepower on that pole and 154, and I believe I've got about 12 PSI, maybe 13 PSI, because we hit 190 kPa and it's still pulling fuel out of the top end. So I want to do a few more pulls and get this fuel table worked out better, but I do want to get it up to 15 PSI. One thing that we're noticing here is that the horsepower starts to drop off really above 6,000. My maximum horsepower is happening at about 5,500 to 6,000. Max torque's happening between 4,500 and 5,000. Look at that, 154 torque. I'm happy with that. I think I can do better with this. Still a lot of tuning that has to happen. There's a lot of fuel that's being pulled out of the top end, as you can see. See those red columns? The red represents how much fuel is being pulled out, and the blue represents the fuel that's being added. So it's mostly pulling out a lot of fuel on the top end. But I want to put another PSI or 2 in it. We'll hit it again and see what she does. All right. I just went all the way with the wastegate. See what happens. RPM. Yeah, okay, so I let out of it right above 6.
Yeah, about 62.
181. Damn!
It
Cool
looked
3-cylinder.
The power was actually still climbing.
Oh, crap.
So you hit that flat spot, and then it started jumping again.
I bet that is fuel related, because anything up at around that RPM with that much boost, there's just a huge amount of fuel. So it's probably dumping fuel, and then once I got to a higher RPM, it started to correct itself a little bit. I'm happy with that. That's I don't want to blow the thing up today. We'll save that for next time I'm out here. 181. Now is that to the wheels or is that?
So if
This
you
thing's
want
200 horsepower.
if you want to get your 15% loss in there. That was the one you just did.
The blue is the one I just did?
Yep.
So fueling's getting better, for sure. And look at how flat both the torque and the horsepower.
Picked up 9 pounds of torque.
Same, was it same horsepower?
Yeah, identical.
Oh, I see. I gained horsepower across the board, but at the top it peaked.
Right.
That's just what I wanted. All right.
Picked up on the curve.
Dang. Thought I turned the boost down, but I guess not that much. Okay, well, I'll take that all day long. 6 clicks. The last pull was at 8 clicks. Which color?
Green.
Green?
Green, yep. 170, 181 torque.
Okay. I was thinking we were gonna stay at that 140 something and blew that out of the water. So the fueling's getting much better. Now I've got it running at high RPM. It's running a nice steady 12 AFR, and in the mid-range it slowly ramps up to that. It's more like 14.5 down at the bottom for efficiency, and then as the boost starts to come in, it'll run down as low as 11, but it bounces between 11 and 12 on the top end at high RPM, which is right where I think I've got my map programmed. But I'll be curious to get it back and pull up the data log and see how many pounds we're actually putting into it. That's a lot more than what I was thinking it would be. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for now. We'll get this thing pulled down here off the dyno, and we'll check those numbers out.
Those are the last 3 pulls.
They go in order, so that's the oldest, that's the
Yep.
newest. Okay, so I made exactly the same on those 2 poles. Yeah, but the blue, that was much better fueling.
Yeah, you picked up 9 pounds of torque.
Yeah. And then also the horsepower didn't dip. So the fueling was getting better towards the end. It was pretty consistent there, so I think the fueling's good. And I have to check, but I believe this 170 is right at about 14, 15 PSI. These two, I have no idea what that was running, but we'll find out once I get back and review the data logs. Very, very happy with it. I think I can set records at Durham Town with 200 horse. So if somebody's local and they're interested in coming down here with their machine, they can come run this thing, right?
Yep.
Do it themselves.
Can rent the dyno, make pulls on the dyno, have us tune. We tune Dodge, Chevy, and LS. Dennis will tune some Supras here and there, but mainly an LS shop. Pretty much primarily an LS shop.
Awesome.
But like I said, the dyno is rented by the hour like this. You can throw it up here, make 3 pulls with no tuning for $100. And then obviously we have a full service performance shop as well.
Yeah, and if you want, you guys tune them, or they can do what I did and just, I guess, rent the dyno and do it themselves. Awesome. I'm glad I found you guys. I'm sure I'll be back. I know I'll be back, because the only thing I didn't really change was the VVT. I was really curious to see what would happen if I made some changes to that VVT. So I'll just save that for another day anyway. So I'll be back. Appreciate you guys. I showed you guys the dyno graphs from the dyno, but I wanted to show you again here on paper. So this is our graph. This, of course, right here being our fun zone. Okay. Now, yeah, Widow made, just to reiterate here, Widow made 181.38 horsepower and 189 pound-feet of torque. Guys, that's to the wheels. You realize that's over 200 horsepower? That's about 210 horsepower at the crank, and that's like 220 pound-feet of torque. That is a lot of power for a 74 horsepower engine. Guys, that is 179 horsepower per liter. I don't know if you realize how rare that is to get 179 horsepower per liter. This little 3A92 engine pretty much outperforms with boost anything else on the market. It outperforms B series and K series Hondas. I mean, this is like uncharted territory at this point. And the best part about this engine is I've got $450 into the engine, and I did do a little bit of head work, so I've got about $1,000 into the head work. However, that will probably not make a huge difference. So for you, if you were to purchase one of these engines off eBay like I did, you can probably get one with low mileage for about $500, put a KO3 turbo on it, which is not very expensive because they're not super desirable turbos because they are pretty small, but they're perfect for the 1.2 liters. Put a KO3 turbo on that, you're into it another $500-600 into the turbo. You do have to make the turbo manifold for it, which if you're doing it yourself, doing a little TIG welding, yeah, it might cost you, $50 in parts or something like that. If you have somebody build the manifold, yeah, it's going to cost you a little bit more. But still, at the end of the day, my point is that for about a $1,000 engine, we're making 179 horsepower per liter. That is unfreaking heard of. There's absolutely nothing else out there that you can purchase today for that kind of cost, let alone for any cost that's going to produce that much power per liter on a minimal amount of boost. Other than like a boosted Hayabusa engine, there's nothing at the weight that this engine is that you could purchase for that price that's going to put that kind of power down to the wheels. I just can't express enough how excited I am to be able to be doing these things on this 3A92 platform. So I'm going to continue to work with this engine. I would love to do some other upgrades to it, like some better head bolts, because I have a feeling once I start pushing 25 PSI, I'm probably going to lift that head, hydro lock on a dyno or a hard pull on a drag strip, and then blow the rods out of the thing. Now, for the contest, to see who won the contest, one thing we need to keep in mind is that even though there was a momentary spike at 17 PSI, I'm not considering 17 PSI for the contest, not just because we all knew that I was going to be running more boost than that, but we're losing about 2 to 2.5 PSI, because what happens is in the fun zone, that's spiking up to 17 PSI, but then as that exhaust flapper opens, that PSI will actually start to drop a little bit, and then it levels out to about 15 PSI. So let me show you guys on the data logs what I'm actually referring to. On the last couple of runs, this is one of the 181 horsepower runs. In fact, this is the 181 horsepower, 189 pound-feet of torque run. Right here is where we're running. If you look over there in red, that's our map pressure. So the maximum map pressure on this log is 218 kPa. Just to save myself the math from having to do this, I'm using this little calculator. So 218 kPa in PSI relative is that, which is 16.9 PSI. So it spiked up to 16.9, but as we continued the run, so in other words, that's where maximum torque is coming in. See, I just moved this blue line over to this part where the pressure starts to drop, and then you can see we're at 206.8 kPa, 206 kPa. So that's actually 15.1 PSI. So for all intents and purposes, for the contest's sake, that's exactly where we wanted it. I'm not using the momentary spike. So the reason why I'm not using the 17 PSI for the contest is because we weren't producing maximum horsepower in our fun zone. The horsepower continues to climb. Remember, the boost is now dropping. So by the time we get over here to where we produce the maximum horsepower, right over here is where we were producing 15 PSI. So at 15 PSI, we're producing 181 horsepower and 189 pound-feet of torque. So now we just got to select a winner. So let me go through these comments here. 118 torque, 153 horsepower, 165, 110. Well, you guys were guessing low. Man. Then, of course, we got one from Jim. 310 horsepower, 287 torque. Man, I wish I was cranking that kind of power out from a 1.2 liter engine. So we've got 195 from Art, 175 torque. Who said 223? That was a good guess. All right, so that's fixing it blind. 223. 176 torque. I think we might have a winner there. That's not the closest horsepower guess, but that is the closest torque figure. Yeah, everybody guessed really low for the torque. So, fixing it blind. Congratulations, you've got a t-shirt heading your way. I think the horsepower guess is going to be between Mark and Sin and Grin. Mark says 193, so we were 193 minus 181. It's 12 horsepower off, and Sin and Grin is 175, so 181 minus 175. 6. All right, Sin and Grin, you are a winner. So if I was running an actual 17.5 PSI to the engine, that's where we'll start to see 190, 195 horsepower to the wheels. Like 220, 225 at the crank horsepower. Pretty darn impressive for a tiny stock internal 3A92 1.2 liter engine. 1.2 liters, 179 horsepower per liter. Freaking unreal, you guys. Anyway, I'm going to continue to work on this project. I just want to thank you guys for being a part of the channel, being a part of this project. If you're new, hit that subscribe button because we're going to have a lot more that we're going to be doing with Widow. I can't say thank you enough to those of you who have subscribed over the last year and a half. I'm going to continue to work on these projects and continue to do these videos and bring you guys some awesome content. Thanks for watching Dirt Gear, and I'll see you guys in the next one.